Doing a 12-inch downhill. So let's go ahead and get started. Yeah. So right now I'm running this route at about 130 because I got a pretty tight gap. And it seems to be going in pretty good so far. And when I'm doing this downhill route, I'm just dragging it. I'm just making sure I'm keeping that rod nice and tight. Watching that keyhole wink out at me. And making sure all my sparks are blowing through. So, take a little quick peek. So I got a pretty nice route in there so far. Go ahead and jump to this other side. And just look at your gap while you're running your route. It starts opening up or closing up on you. Adjust your heat from there. And just making sure I'm always keeping this rod pointed towards that pipe so that we're going to go right over. So my gap opened right there quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn it down just a little bit. So since it opened up pretty good, I think I'm going to put this remote at about 110 to about 115, and we'll see from there. Once that rod starts toenailing on you, just kind of shake your rod back and forth, breaking off that flux, making sure we're hitting both walls. bucket out of my way. And then when you're tying into your tacks, keep that rod up in there until you see some flames start to spit out at you. Once you see those flames, you're good to go. So, take a quick peek in here. Caught both my walls. None of it's under flush. Caught all my tie-ins. Now we're going to go ahead and grind this root, hit our high spots mainly, and then just kind of buff it. I don't like to grind it that much whenever I'm doing a downhill hot pass, just because it does tend to want to blow through since we are going to be burning pretty hot. So I like to leave it quite a bit of meat on there. So I'll grind it just a little bit, and then I like to just hit it with the wire wheel. So now I got my root all prepped up, ready for my hot pass. I like to leave a little bit of those wagon tracks showing. So let me bring that camera up in here so that way they can see. So if you guys are looking on the edges of that root right there, you're going to see some what we call wagon tracks. It's just a little bit of slag right up in there. I like to leave a little bit just so that way I know I'm not going to pop through. I got some meat left on my root right there. And then I'm going to go turn it up just a little bit for this hot pass. We're going to run it about 120 or so. And all I'm doing when I'm doing this hot pass here is I'm just going to scrape on that root to make sure I'm digging all that trash out and maybe pushing that root out just a little bit for me. And then I lift up just a little bit to allow that puddle to wet out and build up for me. So I'm going to strike up just a little bit ahead, come back, get that puddle going. And so since this is pretty thin pipe right here, I'm just making sure that I'm just catching both walls. Looks like I'm going to be flushing it out with this hot pass here. Hey, Austin, can you turn me up to 130? So I noticed that 120 was a little cold for me here. I could use a little bit more heat to let that puddle kind of wet out so that way I can, one, move a little bit faster, and two, that way I'm not getting any slag trap or anything. And just like we did on that top, strike up a couple inches ahead. Try to get this rod to stay put. Strike up a couple inches ahead, come back, tie in, and just make sure we're always scraping on that root coming forward. And always important to hit your starts and stops with the wire wheel or with the grinder. When I'm on that bottom doing that first pass, I kind of like to rat tail it out so that way it gives me a nice ramp for me to tie into. What's up? Like it? All right, and since I'm tying into this other side here on that top, I'm going to put a nice little ramp on it, allowing me to tie into it all the way. That way I'm not getting a gas pocket, slag trap up here in this top tie-in. All right, so just put you a nice little ramp right there. Nope. All right, now I'm going to do this other side here. So the whole point of this hot pass right here is to try and clean out whatever slag we have left in that pipe. Maybe hopefully push our root out a little bit, making sure we're not blowing through. So the whole goal of this hot pass right here really isn't to fill up this pipe. It's more to clean. Since it is pretty thin, like I said, we are filling it up right here. All right, so we're gonna make this nice little restart right here. So this clamp is just for me to brace up on it since this pipe isn't extended. Since I got nowhere to put my arm, or if I did put my arm right here, it'd be getting real hot on me. So best way to do it, just something where I can get my arm off that pipe, away from the weld, so that way I'm not burning up my arm. All right, so I'm down here on this bottom. I'm gonna wire wheel this other side real quick. So when I get up here on this bottom and I'm going to tie in, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ride past this button right here, about a half an inch to an inch, give or take, just until I see that thing really starting to fill out on me. And then I'm gonna drop down and kind of long arc this rod, and then I'm gonna give it a nice gentle toss right back towards myself, giving me that nice button we're looking for. So there's my button. I'm going to keep going until I see this thing really fill out. Drop down, long arc it, and then give it a nice gentle toss back towards myself. So there we go. Got my entire root in there now. Now I'm just going to give a nice little buff with this wire wheel. All right. We want to have this camera take a look. So, not trying to win a beauty contest here. I'm just trying to get that pipe nice and cleaned out. And then since it was thin, like I said, we're trying to get it nice and filled out right here. But that's more or less what you should be looking for that hot pass or your fills. All right, before I move on to this cap, do we want to do any questions? What we got here? How many amps? So we were running about 120 or so, give or take, on that route. And then for this hot pass, we're running about 130 right now. And then for this cap, I think I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. We'll probably go to like the 115 to 120 range. Yes, we did use 6010 for our route, and then we moved to 7010 for our hot pass and for our cap.
Why do you bend your rod like that?
It just makes it easier for me to get down that pipe, maintain a proper rod angle. A lot of times if I'm just keeping it straight up in there, I'm going to get a really bad rod angle, and I'm going to get myself into a bad bind.
Is it easier to weld stick downhill?
It is a little bit easier to do it. It is going to be a little bit harder to make it look as pretty as you want it and as you see like all over social media and everything. So it just takes time, but it is fairly easy.
Why is it when I weld the rod, would just go through the keyhole?
So when you're running your route and that rod goes through your keyhole, a lot of times it means that you're either one, running a little bit too hot and you're getting too big of the keyhole, or you're just pushing like way too much on it and then having that rod pop through. So try easing up on that rod just a little bit, allowing that rod to kind of just glide itself up or down, whether you're doing an uphill or downhill route. If it's still kind of doing it, probably start turning your heat down.
This is a 14-inch pipe.
This is a 12-inch pipe here.
What age can I start welding?
You can start welding at any age. We take students from 17 and a half all the way as old as they can be.
How can you practice on downhill?
Try and get yourself a machine. See if you can go to a scrap yard, find any scrap pipe or like anyone on Facebook or just anywhere where you can find some pipe or some metal, anything where you can start welding. Get yourself a nice machine and then just practice and practice and practice.
What welding machine do you recommend for a beginner?
For a beginner, depends on what you want to go and do. If you kind of want to do more of your mobile welding, you might want to get a generator welder or an engine-driven welder, whether that be like a SA200, a Miller Bobcat, Miller Pipe Pro, a Lincoln, whether that be Ranger, one of those new XMPs, anything, any kind of engine-driven is a great machine to start with.
I just joined the live. What types of processes are we doing today?
So we're doing a downhill weld with sticks. So we're using a 6010 for our route, a 7010 for our hot pass and our cap.
Where did Chase get his experience from?
I got my experience in plants and refineries. Also kind of just learning by myself whenever I was a kid and everything, but really dialed it in and then went out to plants, refineries, doing a lot of combo work.
Can you give me some advice to get better welds on overhead sticks, 7018 and doing 80
So try turning it up a little bit more on that overhead. A lot of times I like to burn just a little bit hotter to keep that puddle up in there. Make sure we're keeping that rod nice and tight without allowing that rod to go into that puddle. And then it should just act just like how flat does. So if you're getting too far off, a lot of times it's people long arcing it or they're running too cold.
Any tips for MIG as a beginner?
Be comfortable, be steady. If you're good with both of those, that weld should turn out really, really nice.
Why aren't you using 8010?
8010, so we just run 7010 here. It's just what we use. We do have some 8010 laying around and we'll use it every now and then, but this is just what we have in surplus, so this is what we're using.
What is the best way to keep the same arc on overhead fillet weld?
The same arc is just being comfortable. Always be comfortable. Practice those ABCs. Always being comfortable. If you're comfortable, it should be the same all the way, beginning to end.
Are you an instructor?
I am. I'm the second shift lead for TC2. Go on Facebook. There's a lot of job posting there. See if you can find just a rig welder hanging out in a parking lot or something. Leave them a note, give them a shout. Just do your best to put your name out there.
Why am I getting porosity with TIG?
So
60-10 rod.
with 60-10 rod, you're getting bug holes. A lot of times that means you're just really long arcing that puppy. Get that rod nice and close. Have it about a 1/16 off that puddle.
Okay.
That's it? All right, so now for this cap, I'm gonna turn it down just a little bit. And I'm kind of gonna do the same motions as I did on that hot pass. I'm gonna change it up a little bit here and there. So on this top, I'm gonna be scraping and flaring just like how I was doing on this hot pass here. Whenever I get closer to this sides, I'm gonna start doing C's, okay? A lot of times on this side right here, that puddle wants to drop down on you because gravity's fighting you. So the best way to do it is just jump right in front of that puddle and then kind of pause, allowing that puddle to fill out and get to about the same size. And then when we're backed up to this bottom, I'm gonna do the same thing, scraping on it, and then kind of giving a little bit of arc. That way I can let that puddle to wet out for me. When I'm running this cap, I'm just really looking at that puddle, the back side of it, just watching this black flag line. That's going to be telling me where all my steps are going, where I need to put my next one, and then just making sure I'm getting this thing filled out, but not over that 1/8 inch tolerance. And just like I did before, I'm going to get my wire wheel, I'm going to hit all my stops, get all that slag off. That way I'm getting a nice tie in here. Make sure when you're on your side, you're not taking really big steps and you're not long arcing it way too much, or else what we'll get called is a drop ripple. A lot of times the inspector doesn't like a drop ripple. He'll make you repair it, cut it out, whatever he needs to do, get that thing fixed up. So we got this side done. Same thing as my hot pass. I'm gonna wire wheel this top and feather it. All right. Anyone got any other questions so far? What do we got?
Okay, what type of welding machine are you using?
We're using a Miller XMT right now. That's what we have a lot of over here at Western Welding Academy.
How do you know if you're running the right temps?
Just if I'm able to keep up with that puddle, you know, as long as it's not getting super wide on me, I'm just able to maintain a nice, constant travel speed going down it. And just also by the looks of it, you know, I've been welding for quite a while now. I can just really tell by the second I strike up and just how that puddle's acting and what it's doing.
What pattern are you using?
So right now, I'm just kind of whipping it here up on that top. Whenever I'm here on that side, I do little C's and just kind of drop right in front of that puddle, pause, drop right in front of that puddle, pause. And then whenever I'm down here on this bottom, I'm doing the same thing as that top, just step in it.
Do you do circles?
Yeah, you can do circles. Circles will act kind of the same way as those C's. Watch how high you're coming back up to on that side right here, because a lot of times that puddle wants to come down and it will want to snuff out your rod if you're doing circles.
What path are you on right now?
We're on our cap, and what we've got probably about, I don't know, a little bit more than half of this cap done.
What rod size?
We're using 532 7010.
Sorry, hold on. Is this API 1104?
So, yeah, that's what this would be for downhill. We're not x-raying it, we're not shooting it, none of that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of more of a visual weld, but if this was on a job, yes, it would be 1104.
Do you prefer Lincoln or Miller?
I prefer Millers, in my honest opinion. I think they all run relatively about the same, so that way you don't really have to tinker with them a whole lot. You don't have to figure out that certain machine with Millers. With Lincolns, they do run pretty good. Just I feel like every machine kind of runs different, and you have to get to know that machine a lot more.
Is it possible to just slowly run with it instead of doing the specific key pattern?
You could. You do have to turn it up a little bit more for doing that, just to get that puddle to wet out really nice for you. But yeah, that is an option. You can do that.
Do you prefer TIG or stick?
I prefer TIG. That's what I spent my career doing. Stick has its place in time. TIG has its place in time, but I'm a better TIG hand in my opinion.
Where should I start out as a 14-year-old welder?
Being 14, I'd say just get you a little machine, whether that be a little suitcase machine, a little engine driven that you can hopefully get off a buddy or off a family member, anything like that. And then just try and find some scrap plate, scrap metal laying around, get some rods, and just burn rods.
What type of welding rig should I start with?
If you're going to pipeline and everything, I'd recommend getting a dually. So whether that be a Chevy, a Dodge, or a Ford, I think a Ford is the best one in my opinion because they look the best and they are reliable. And then just get you a machine. SA200s are really nice. They're really inexpensive. You don't only have to be breaking the bank. And then just get on your first job, get some bottles, and then just keep acquiring tools.
How can I stop getting undercut?
A lot of times when you're getting undercut, it means that you're either burning a little bit too hot or you're moving too fast. I like to say is you just slow down, see if that puddle will fill itself back in. You won't need to turn your heat down. If it's still undercutting while you're still, like when you're going really slow, turn your heat down. A lot of times it's just you're too hot if it's doing that.
How long have you been welding for?
I've been welding for about 10 years now, give or take.
Someone's asking if you guys have ventilation.
If we have a what?
Ventilation?
Yes, we have a pretty nice state-of-the-art ventilation system that's set up in every single booth here.
Where'd you get your hood from?
I made this hood. It's just a regular sugar scoop. I chopped it. I put the leather on, did all that kind of stuff, and I've had it for quite a while now. But it was just an original, just sugar scoop.
What lens are you running?
I'm running the Lincoln's 24C right now, the adjustable one. These things are pretty nice. I'd recommend getting one of these if you don't have a lens or you're starting out. You can adjust it so for whatever one you're running. So like I'll run about a 9, maybe a little bit less some days. But when I'm doing flux core, I need to turn it up to about an 11, and then I'm good.
Tips on 7018 3G?
7018 3G, so if you're weaving it, don't really worry about getting out of that puddle. I like to stay in that puddle and just moving side to side, not worrying about moving up. And then that way it gives you one nice consistent puddle. Remember, we're just looking for one big, nice hot puddle that you're just carrying all the way up.
What got you into welding?
When I was young, I just kind of got introduced to it in one of my middle school ag programs. Kind of just took it, ran with it for a little bit. Whenever I was about 16, 17, kind of really fell in love with it and then took off a lot from there.
What gap do you have on it, and what rods do you run for the bridge?
So this gap and land on this one, we ran about a 16th land and about a 16th gap, give or take. And then I was running an 1/8" rod.
Someone's asking if you remember Dylan King.
I do remember Dylan King.
What would you say is the most difficult position to weld?
The most what?
Difficult position to weld?
So there's kind of a give and take with that. I've seen with a lot of the students here learning 5G, starting off is one of the most hardest for them. As they go through the program and everything, it ends up being their easiest one and their best one. So I'd say it's a toss-up between 5G and 6G.
What process can make the most money?
That kind of depends. So like downhill welders, you know, it's pretty simple. And they make a lot of money. Combo hands make a lot of money. Specialty welders make a lot of money. So it's just kind of find what you truly like, whether that's TIG, combo, downhill, uphill, whatever it is. And any of those you can make a lot of money on.
Is it true that you can turn your eyesight to welding?
You can what with your eyesight?
Turn your eyesight?
You can, but as long as you're wearing all your proper PPE, so you're wearing your double eye protection, your lenses, and having the right shade lens for what you're doing, your eyes won't get affected that much.
Someone's saying that I've heard bad things about the academy. Anything where that song comes from?
So it's just some kids, you know, they just don't have the right mentality with it and everything. And that's unfortunate to them because we try and help everyone here as much as we can. So I wouldn't let one person's decision affect your decision.
Do you ever get, or do you ever root 70, 16 negative polarity?
We don't do that here. I've never even heard of that in my entire life. Could be something that you've done. I don't know anything about it, so I couldn't really give you any information about it if you need.
Tips on starting beginners.
Make sure you're comfortable. Get to know your machine. Just constantly burning rods. Practice, practice, practice. And just don't give up until you got it right every single time.
What are your thoughts on underwater welding?
Underwater welding, it seems fun. It seems pretty cool. It seems like you can make a decent amount of money out of it. I just feel like it's kind of a lot for what you're getting paid, you know. Everyone hears about underwater welding getting paid all this money. In reality, they don't, because they only get paid on how deep they go. And a lot of times you're not going 500, 600 feet down to weld. You're just going 20, 30 feet down to weld, like on the bottom of a ship or whatever it is. So there's really not a whole lot of money in that part of it. If you can find the gig where you're going down a couple hundred feet, that's where the money is, but it's really, really hard to get on that.
How long is the program?
The program is 6 months.
Do you lift arc or scratch arc?
I do, with TIG, I like to do scratch start. A lot of times with lift arc, if you're running off an engine-driven machine, it'll grab the tip of that tungsten and break it off in your weld, giving you tungsten inclusion and then not having that puddle run completely right just because that tungsten is chipped and it's kind of, it's not that razor sharp point we got anymore. So I prefer scratch start. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and finish out the rest of this cap. We just got a little bit left to go. And like I said earlier, you guys, make sure we're always wire wheeling or grinding our starts and stops. That way we get a nice tie-in. right. So we're gonna go ahead and wire wheel all this slag off the cap now. All right. You want to come take a peek at this? So this is what my cap's looking like here. Got everything nice and above flush. Doesn't look like I have any drop ripples, nothing that's under flush. No arc marks, anything of that kind of nature. So that's roughly about what you want to get that 5G downhill to look like, about right there. Yeah. So we're going to answer some questions here again.
Does it help to be certified before going to Western Welding Academy?
No, it doesn't matter. We actually prefer it that you guys kind of don't know how to weld yet, because a lot of times when people already know how to weld and they come here, they have a lot of bad habits that we have to fix. And it can take quite a while to fix all those bad habits. So we actually kind of prefer some people not to have that much experience, or any at all. So that way they learn the right habits and get it up and pick it up immediately.
What math class should I take my senior year that will prepare me for welding?
Geometry is pretty good. Algebra can be pretty good. I would say if you can do anything, take another geometry class.
How come welding for farmers?
Welding for farmers? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, everyone needs something welded up, whether it's a piece of equipment that's kind of broke down, or it's like an irrigation line, anything kind of like that. So nothing wrong with what you're doing and who you're working for or what you're doing.
Is there any age you should stop trying to pursue welding as a career?
No, I think you should just, if you want it bad enough, keep going and going and going, no matter how old you are or how young you are. Eventually it will come and you will learn it.
At the academy, do you only do stick, or do you do all of them?
We're starting a flux core or a wire program here pretty soon. So we will be doing TIG, stick, and MIG, lamb flux core, with that wire. So we do it all here.
Got any tips for vertical welding?
Vertical welding, just keep that arc nice and tight, nice slow side to side, sweep across that middle fast, pausing on the edge, and just trying to carry that one big hot puddle all the way up if you're doing a weave.
What is the easiest way to get glass burn and go away packs?
A lot of people say you can cut up potatoes, put those on your eyes. I've tried it, doesn't really work. If anything, it's kind of just get eye drops, rest it out for the day. At the end of the day, they'll be gone. Just make sure you're comfortable, get all the right equipment for it. That way it's going to help you out and you're not struggling with everything. And just being comfortable burning rod and just practice, just like you would anything else.
Thoughts on laser welding?
Laser welding looks pretty cool. You know, I've never tried it. But, I mean, there's a point for it, I guess, with that really, really thin sheet metal. But that's really all it'd be used for.
How hard is it to get on the pipeline?
It kind of depends on who you know, how good you are, how long you've been doing it. If you know someone that's already working on pipelines, you'll be able to get on there as a helper pretty quick. If you don't, it's going to take a little bit longer to get up on those jobs. So it's just kind of who you know, what you know, all that good stuff.
Do y'all do any orbital?
No, we don't do any orbital here. Personally, I think orbital's cheating. Why would you get a robot to weld? I mean, I could do it just as good, you know, if not better than it. So we don't teach it here.
Any recommendations for welding galvanized?
Welding galvanized, get rid of all that galvanized, every single bit. So grind it all until you see sparks, or wear a respirator, just anything to get out of that smoke from that paint right there, because it will cause you to be sick.
Where can I get merch at? WeldUSA.com.
Go to weldusa.com and you can pick out any of your merch that you want there.
What is your favorite welder?
My favorite welder is probably going to have to be a Miller Pipe Pro. They're the most versatile in my opinion, and they weld the best.
Do y'all do any ironworking welding?
So we do some structural welding here, but I mean, just your normal open roots or fillets, anything like that. So we do ironworking welding.
How can I get better at TIG? Any tips?
Be relaxed, don't death grip your TIG torch, and just try and make every step the same step. So if you're going forward and up, going to the left, go forward and up, going to the right, you know. It's going to take practice. It's going to take quite a while to learn it and get really, really good with it. But the more you keep doing it, the more you keep practicing, the better you're going to get.
How long does the trade usually take?
So for this trade school, it's a 6-month program. There are some that are longer. There are some that are shorter. I think 6 months is like the perfect time. It allows you to get enough experience in, so that way when you go out on a job, you got enough experience to know what you're doing, how to do it, and then that way you're not falling behind.
How much does it cost to go to Western Welding Academy?
35, right?
35.
35 grand after it's all said and done.
Have you ever welded a flower?
I think I did in high school one time for like a project or something. Didn't really turn out that great. You know, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did do one.
How do you join the training?
So you'll just go to applytoweld.com. You'll fill out all the information there, and then our student selection will get back with you, and then you guys can go from there.
Someone says, this guy seems cooler than anyone who taught me at another welding school.
Yeah, well, what can we say? We got the best instructors here at Western Welding Academy.
Do pipeline welders have free time if I want to hit the gym?
So it depends. A lot of times when you're doing pipeline, it's going to be probably 7-12, so you're working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Could be more, could be less on some of them. So, I mean, as long as you're a schedule-oriented person, you'll be fine. You got enough time to go do whatever you need to do.
If I'm a junior, when should I apply?
So I'd say you can go ahead and apply right now, and then that way you can already get your booth hold payment in, you can get your date set up, ready to go. By the time you graduate high school, you're ready to go. That or you can wait until you're a senior, getting close to the end of it. But I would suggest doing it right now, and then that way you have your spot reserved.
When you get out of here, you going to be a travel welder?
When I get out of here, or when a student gets out? Yeah, when a student gets out of here, a lot of times they do go and travel. That's where you're going to make the most money at, is traveling. You know, there's a saying, there's no money in your hometown. I mean, there's probably 5 towns in the entire nation that if you live there, that's where you can make good money. Everything else, you're going to have to go travel for it.
Someone's asking if I already know what I want to do, like if I want to stick weld on pipeline, so I just come out there and just stick weld.
So you can do that. It is better to be more versatile to no MIG, to no stick, to no TIG. That way you're never just wanting one job, you know. If there's a stainless job paying 50 an hour and 150 a day per diem, I'm going to take that every day of the week. You know, that's probably a $4,000 a week paycheck right there. I'm not just going to stick with one thing and just do one thing, you know. Learn as much as you can so that way you can always make the most money.
Tips on TIG opener levels, how to not make the root drop?
So whenever we're doing that route with TIG, so it depends if you're back feeding it or if you're lay wiring. We're going to say you're going with the lay wire here. Just make sure that your fit's the same all the way down. So we're looking for that tight 1/8 gap, and that's where that wire won't pop through. And run it anywhere from about 85 to 90 amps, maybe a little bit more if your machine's kind of runs a little cold. And just make sure the tip of that tungsten goes no wider than that wire, and you're just maintaining a nice travel speed forward.
Someone's saying, Chase, do you think it's crazy that me and 12-year-old welders can stick and kind of do TIG?
That's not common, so that's pretty good for you guys. I'd say keep at it. You know, by the time that you guys turn 18 and get on a job, you guys are probably going to be pretty jam-up welders, so just keep at it. Alrighty.